Did you have a lot of models? I mean, there was Roger Corman with American International. Was there anyone on the East Coast doing what you were doing?
Well, certainly Roger Corman was proving, and I did watch his films, he was proving that one could make good, low-budget movies with top-quality scripts, with provocative themes and good acting, and be successful. And that's proof. That was the proof. There were, when I broke in, there was a myriad of small studios, and they were all making a go of it. There was something in those days, you probably haven't heard of it, but it's called competition. Competition was allowed. You don't have that anymore. There was competition. The cost of making a movie was high, but once you made it, assuming you had something slightly entertaining and commercial, you could get it to an audience. Now, the beautiful democratization of cinema, I was supposed to be filming. Anybody, I carry this thing with me all the time, anybody can make his or her own damn movie. I've written 6 books and box sets. The point is...
there were other people doing what
you could do it. You could do it. And somehow we've managed to survive because we've built up a fan base and we've got a kind of a little micro brand. And the others have most of them have just fallen by the wayside, not because they made bad movies, but because the laws that used to protect the public against monopoly have been done away with. And the incentives, unfortunately, many of the incentives that helped independent movie makers have also gone away. So as a result, you have...
When you got started, what did you think were the biggest obstacles you had just to stay alive? It wasn't the competition from the big studios.
No, I think the hardest thing starting out was just to, because we made movies that didn't fit when we started, all there was movie theaters. There were no video cassettes or any of that stuff. So the theater owners are absolutely the below. If they needed any, if they were any lower on the food chain, you'd be watering them. I mean, they're horrible, and they hate movies. They hate movies, and they certainly won't pay you. And they say things like, "We can't pay you because we just had to give Paramount $1 billion in order to get Indiana Jones Skullfucker." That's what they say. So you're subsidizing Paramount, which makes you feel real good. And that was the story. That was the hardest thing, I think. And then we make Squeeze Play, which nobody wanted to play, and then one theater starts to play it and it does well, so then suddenly we've got to make 200 prints and go all over the country with it. And then the next film doesn't look exactly like Squeeze Play, and then Toxic Avenger, we make Toxic Avenger. Wait a minute, we want the waitress. We don't want, what are you doing here? There's a guy with a mop. Then nobody will play it. And then one theater downtown, Bleecker Street Theater played it, and a line around the block, opening day. Somehow the public knew. The theater owner didn't know. The independent theater, Bleecker Street Cinema, you may know them, they knew somehow that Jackie Raynal, who was actually a Warhol, I think I met her when I was hanging around the Warhol set, factory or whatever you called it. And she got it. She understood that Toxic Avenger was she got it. And then when you make, made Class of Newcomb High, same thing. It's never as good as the, Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. Oh, it's just not as good as Terra Firma. It's okay. And Terra Firma is just not as good as Tromeo and Juliet.
Well, maybe we should explain to them just how tough it was to get into these theaters. You were literally going door to door, theater to theater, to try to get them to show the films.
Well, they did need movies. They needed movies because they had overbuilt at a point in the 70s. There were too many screens, and the movie studios were in trouble because they were making, unlike today when they're making real shit, they were just making shit. And so they needed us. And we sold a lot of stuff, appealed to young people, and sold a lot of popcorn. And also the deals they would give us, we'd get about 10% of what a studio would get, and they would steal from us. So it was a pretty good deal for them.
Well, maybe you can even speak about this. You're a struggling independent, you literally have to go worldwide. You're going to Cannes to sell the global rights to the film.
I think the business model for Troma, if there is one, is low budget, so you don't bet the house on one movie. Try to put something in your movie that somebody wants to see, if you're going to be independent. Yeah. A gun. Americans love guns, as you know, and they will look at the screen if there's a gun, and they'll buy a ticket. If there's a monster, somebody's going to go and see every monster movie. Naked men and women, and well, we don't say women. That's got the word man in it, but the gyno, naked gyno Americans, and people. Someone's going to buy a ticket. They are not going to. If you do a romantic comedy, unless it has Julia Roberts in it, it ain't going to. You may sell no tickets. So we've tried to do something with something commercial in it, and then we try to make the most dear to us movie. With Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, the satire is about, it's anti-fast food, and it's got a number of political themes about which I and my colleagues were very intense. Toxic Avenger was an environmental movie made in 1982 when, before Al Gore invented the internet and before before environment became, McDonald's cups were not biodegradable, stuff like that. And there was pixie dust being played with by children in the dumps of Rio, which turned out to be radium from X-ray machines.
Did you feel your audience got your satire as opposed to just getting your monsters and your naked men?
Yes, the films did well. Sure, we've been around for 40 years. We have no debt. We owned a building on. We still own our headquarters, although we've moved it. We've got a library of about 800 movies. We certainly haven't made a lot of money, but we're still here and we don't have any debt. And we've got probably the biggest library of movies outside the majors, and certainly in this country.